Always trust.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Jedna je od najistaknutijih američkih muslimanskih intelektualki, istraživačica, aktivistica i spisateljica. Radila je u Savjetodavnom vijeću za vjerska i susjedska partnerstva predsjednika Baracka Obame, a pred Odborom američkog Senata za vanjske poslove svjedočila je o američkom angažmanu s muslimanskim zajednicama. Direktorica je Istraživačkog centra u kojem vodi inovativna istraživanja o američkim muslimanima. Intenzivno se bavi i edukacijom o muslimanskoj zajednici, kao i sprečavanjem islamofobije. Dalia Mogahed za Al Jazeeru govori o važnosti istraživanja, suradnji s drugim manjinskim zajednicama u SAD-u, pitanju složenih identiteta u suvremenom svijetu i tome što danas znači biti musliman u Americi.
So here with us today is Dalia Mogahed. She's joining us from the US, and we will be talking about many issues, both America-wise and international issues. So, Dalia, could you tell us, you have been working with, you're part of social movements, you're part of a civic movement, you deal with different policies. So could you tell us more about this? What is it that you do and what impact it has?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me, and it's such an honor to be in Bosnia my first time. And I have such a connection to this beautiful country, although I've never been here. And I can talk about that later, but as far as what I do right now is I'm the director of research at a think tank and research organization called the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding. And my organization focuses on the American Muslim community. We do research on this community and on the policy issues that impact the community. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of research, of a fact-based approach to understanding a community, of educating the public about our community from a place of evidence, not just,
theoreticizing.
Yes, exactly, or trying to make a case without giving facts. So we're really an organization that wants to replace fear with facts by doing rigorous academic research on our community, both for the sake of people understanding us from the wider society, but possibly even more importantly for ourselves, for us to understand ourselves, where our challenges are, where our assets are, how do we move forward? How do we progress? Where should we put our resources? We can't do that. We can't make good decisions about our own development in the absence of evidence, in the absence of research. And I find that Muslims themselves are sometimes as misinformed about the community as people from the outside. We don't understand ourselves in the absence of good research. So what we do is we do research and we educate people about what we find.
What are the root causes of this misunderstanding or inexistence of knowing?
So there's a number of root causes. The first is that the media is very biased. And when I say that, I know everyone says that, it's almost like a cliche, but this is based on research. This is based on evidence. We have looked at media content and we have done a systematic analysis of the way the media covers stories about our community, and they are biased. There is a disparity of how the media looks at our community versus other people doing the exact same thing. So we did one study where we looked at ideologically motivated violence, and we found that the media will cover a Muslim perpetrator 778% more than a perpetrator from another faith background for the exact same crime. So we're getting all the attention for bad things. And so that's one reason. The other reason is there just isn't very much information. No one has really done much research on American Muslims until now.
So this is in a way pioneering work you're doing in terms of researching specifically Muslims in America. But You touched upon this media coverage of different crimes or between the Muslim community or the Muslim perpetrators or those who are not Muslim.
Yes.
So what does this tell us about Islamophobia in the US?
Islamophobia in the US is basically baked into almost every single aspect of the state and of life. And I hate to say it this way because it feels so overwhelming, but unfortunately, unless we analyze the problem properly, we can't fix it. Islamophobia is woven into how the media approaches us, the media thinks about us. Islamophobia is woven into policies of international relations as well as law enforcement domestically. And I can give you so many examples, but it's very important for your viewers to understand that Islamophobia is not just individuals. It's not just someone looks at me in an aggressive way at the grocery store. People always talk about Islamophobia as individuals together. No, that's very minor actually. I don't have a problem if someone says something to me in a coffee shop. What I have a problem with is institutionalized Islamophobia, which is the major threat to Muslims all over the world and in the United States, even as citizens. Institutional Islamophobia, the Islamophobia you feel when you're in the airport, when you're dealing with law enforcement, when you're dealing with the immigration system, even when you're dealing with healthcare, is the kind of Islamophobia that we need to be talking about and worrying about.
So institutional Islamophobia, you said it's a problem both in the US and in the world.
Yes.
So, okay, let's say the research you're doing and the research many other civic organizations are doing, what impact are you trying or are you hoping to have, at least short term? Long term, we understand, to eradicate, but short term, are you seeing any results based on your work or based on being as vocal about these issues as you have been?
So short term, our goal is to raise awareness and to educate so that every decision and every conversation about our community is well informed, is based in facts. So what has happened? What has been, the result? So we offer training for a lot of different professions, including school teachers and policymakers. And our goal is to make sure that they're able to do their jobs in a way that is well informed. So we know that around half of Muslim children are bullied in school for their faith, much more than any other child of any background. And the scary thing is a third of those children, the bully is the teacher herself or himself. So we are doing the work of training teachers, training administrators, so that they're able to provide the care and the education that they should by being aware of this bullying problem, by not contributing to it, and also by having good resources to teach about American Muslims in their classroom.
Is this a new era in American politics? Is this a new era for American Muslims then? Maybe 20 years after everything that 9/11 brought for American Muslims, but not just American. Muslims from everywhere
right.
felt what 9/11 meant for the change in the whole paradigm about them. So even though today we're also witnessing Islamophobia, actually a rise in Islamophobia everywhere, but is this organizational aspect of everything maybe, does it mean that there is something actually happening? Could it actually bring a change?
So I think we're in a new era because our strategy has become much more sophisticated. What we see is by fighting Islamophobia head on, we're actually missing the root cause. The root cause is misinformation. That is what causes Islamophobia. That's what allows people to have the wrong impression of Muslims. It allows people to agree to policies that are unfair and against their own values. So we have to attack the issue at its core, which is with information. We have to speak truth to lies. And the lies are so loud and so well resourced and so organized. We have to come back with the truth just as loud and just as organized. And that's really what this organization is meant to do. is simply to offer people the truth so that they can decide what they want, rather than only having one voice in their ear.
Has this shown some other areas of where solidarity can work within the work you're doing within the U.S. society, between different organizations tackling different minorities?
Yeah.
Have you seen some positive work that's being done, or results already maybe?
I have, and I'm really glad that you're bringing up this idea of solidarity between different communities, because that's exactly what has to happen. It's impossible without that. So one amazing example is one that was led by a very good friend of mine, Linda Sarsour, you probably know. She was part of a movement in New York City, of a coalition, of an alliance between the Muslim community and the Black and Latino community. Now, of course, as we all know, there are many Black Latino Muslims too, so these are not two separate communities. There's much of an overlap. But this bringing together of these two communities to address two problems that were being caused by the police in New York, the NYPD. They were surveying Muslims, they were spying on Muslim students, okay? And at the same time, they were doing something called stop and frisk, where they were stopping Latino and Black men for absolutely no reason on the street with no suspicious behavior and searching them, just randomly, finding them and searching them. And it was causing so many problems for this community. And so they were abusing both of these communities in different ways. And the communities could have each dealt with the problem separately, but instead they came together and they said, wait, the same police is hurting both of us. We have to work together. And only by doing that, by coming together as a coalition, were they able to take on the largest police force in the country, possibly one of the biggest in the world. A police force that is, by the way, trained in Israel. I mean, we know that the US police is trained in Israel. So we have the same tactics that are being applied in Israel, in the occupied territories, applied against our own citizens in the United States. That is our police. It's a militarized police. People don't realize how militarized our police is in America. So when you hear about police shootings and things like that, this is a natural outcome of the kind of training they receive. So she was able, not only by herself, but together with other leaders and communities, to take on such a powerful institution and bring an end to both of these practices, the surveillance and the stop and frisk at the same time. But this is only possible when you work together with other communities that are targeted.
So you have just said, we're talking about US police trained in Israel, but let's just talk about US police and the gravity it has to itself. So it's the force of the state. Mm-hmm. And you or Linda Sarsour or any of these communities who are just civilians, who are just members of small communities within New York, by joining together within a small civic movement, have managed to tackle or at least engage, but then actually also change things with the superpowers, with the high politics. So what I want you to tell us, also based on your experience, but also based on experience of people who surround you, of her or similar people, is it possible then? So it is possible, because it is possible to tackle them and to challenge practices that are not good, regardless of the fact that it's the high state. So how is it then possible? Is it just joining, or is it already just the effort of trying to engage?
I think just being engaged is already a result. I agree with you. And I think we should never underestimate the power of just showing up, just engaging. But then there has to be other steps. First, you need to be strategic. You need to know who to ally with. You need to know the levers of power that you can use. Because even if they seem very powerful, there's still ways that you can organize and change things. And I am not an organizer. I'm a nerd behind a computer. That is what I am. I am a researcher. Linda's the one in the street doing that kind of work, and people almost like confuse us. Sometimes we're so different. I am just, I do research and write reports and give speeches, and she's on the ground making those kinds of changes. So what I exist to do is to empower her and others like her, people on the ground, practitioners, making change. They don't have time to do research, but they need the facts. They need these facts so that they can make change and know what they're talking about, and that's what I do.
The fact that many Muslims in the US, you also mentioned Latinos, you mentioned all kinds of different communities from around the world that are Muslim.
Yes.
So how does this, the fact of multiple identities in line with the American identity, then again in combination with the Muslim identity, how do all these things work together into making a person who is able to integrate into the society?
I think the heart of that problem, or the heart of that, or the solution to that problem rather, is to stretch the definition of what it means to be an American. I think this is the key, because there's almost a war in our country right now in America of what is the definition of an American. And the reason there's so much hostility towards someone like Ilhan Omar is because she stretches and challenges that definition from being a white Christian country to being a very multicultural country. And she's so unapologetic in her being a Somali refugee, being a Muslim, so visible in her Islam with her hijab and so forth, very proudly black. So she challenges this definition that some people want to keep and are guarding with their lives. And that's why Trump got elected, because he says this is America. When he says make America great again, it's code for make America white again. So we have to keep working for a definition of America that includes every single one of us as a member of this nation, as a contributor to its well-being. And when we do that, when we work for the real definition of America, in my opinion, then this idea of multiple identities becomes much easier, right? Because I don't have to choose between being an American and being a Muslim. It doesn't have to be a choice. My religion is Islam, my nationality can be American. I also bring my Egyptian background, and that's an enrichment. That is an addition to the country. I mean, my background as an Egyptian, I was born in Egypt, I came to America as a young child, is something that it gives so much to American society in terms of our culture, our language, our music, our food. To be very proud of this background and think of it as a contribution rather as something that you have to compromise for membership. And I think America will be stronger if it does this, if it forces people to leave their identity at their door, to leave their faith at the door. They will have very hollow people, very hollow citizens.
Are the US officials grasping the importance of this, or the severity of the consequences of this, of the disparity between different identities, or actually not letting certain individuals or communities become fully American? Are the politics that are those in the end most responsible for everything, do they understand this? Have you been able to reach them?
So I really believe that America is a work in progress. I do believe that. It's not a settled, we don't even have a settled history. We debate our history, we debate our present, and we have to be a part of that debate. So has it been achieved? No, it has not been achieved, but it's something that we have to keep working for. And what I will say is that many of our laws support this idea. So for example, unlike many parts of Europe, there is at least legally religious freedom for Muslims. Now, on the ground, there are lots of obstacles, and I'm fully aware of that, but at least we have some basic legal frameworks on which to call. We also have the civil rights movement, which is a unique part of American history that, say, British Muslims don't have, or certainly French Muslims, God help them, don't have. We can call upon the Civil Rights Act, which gives us these, these basic sense of equality that we can say it's in our law. In theory, we're already equal. In theory, we're already fully, citizens. There's no really legal obstacle to that definition of America that I'm talking about. We're fighting this battle in the imagination of the public. We're fighting this battle in the paradigm, in the conversations, in the way we talk about things. When someone comes up to me and says, "You're welcomed here," and they think they're being nice, and I say, "Thank you so much, but what are you welcoming me to?" It's like, our country. I said, "This is our country. I'm not waiting for a welcome. I don't wait for a welcome in my own home." So these paradigms have to change, where even Muslims themselves need to reassess how we think of our role in our own country.
Is there something that stems from the Arab world that is kind of synonymous with the Muslim world as well? Mm-hmm. Is there something that stems from there that poses perhaps some problem with the relations with the West, with sometimes perhaps hesitance to be integrated, to integrate within a society that is different?
So a couple of things I would love to, I think you're asking such a good question. I just want to make a couple of comments. First, American Muslims are very, very diverse. So Arabs only make about 14% of all of American Muslims. So it's a very mixed group of people. The largest group are African Americans, actually. They're about a third of American Muslims. And 25% are white, and so that would include Bosnian Muslims. And about 20% are Asian, and then Arabs are 14%. We have Latino Muslims. We even have Native American Muslims. Very mixed group. So when it comes to our national origins, and so about half of Muslims in America were born in America, half were immigrants, just as a point of understanding. So is it like some of our countries of origin, are they the problem, making it hard for us to integrate? My answer to that is an emphatic no. And the reason I say it's an emphatic no is because by any measure of, quote, integration, Muslim Americans are like more American than anyone else, honestly. If we measure integration based on how much are you contributing to the community, to the world, to the country you're living in, the country that you are calling home, American Muslims contribute way more than their numbers. We're only 1% of the whole country. I think people assume we're much larger. We're only 1% of America. And we make up 15% of the medical doctors in Michigan. Imagine, if you ban Muslims from America, you would lose, your healthcare system would collapse, basically. We give $5 billion in economic contributions in just one state of Michigan. So there are so many examples of how Muslims contribute to their country. We make 100,000 jobs. We're job creators because of our businesses in just the state of Michigan, where we're only 3% of the state. This is more jobs than the Chrysler Company, very famous American car company that the government bailed out with billions of tax dollars because it was so important to the economy. Muslims make more jobs than this company. So I want to just underscore that when it comes to, are Muslims a part of society? Are they involved? Are they like invested in this project called America? The answer is absolutely yes, more than anyone else can expect them to be. But what people sometimes are thinking in their minds when they say integration is, do they look like everybody else? Do they have exactly the same kind of thinking as everybody else? No. And that should not even be a criteria. It should be eliminated as a criteria of integration, because we are coming and contributing something of value, or we should be. And one of those things is our faith identity. maybe a slightly different way of thinking.
In the context of women empowerment and what we are seeing and what we were witnessing, and again, if taking into account that you're coming from the US and that you do belong into this group of very vocal, publicly very vocal women who are fighting these problems that we talked about in this whole interview, shoulder to shoulder with Linda Sarsour and Ilhan Omar and many others. Is this change in the whole paradigm, is this something that you feel is a momentum that you need to use now?
The power of women, I absolutely think so. I believe in the power of sisterhood and the power of women to make change. I think what I've seen in America is women really are leading the way in so many ways, whether it's Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib or Linda Sarsour. There's so many visible, courageous, I mean fierce women out there doing this hard work, and they are the biggest challenge to the most prevalent Islamophobic trope, which is that women are suppressed by Islam. I mean, they stand in opposition, they stand in contradiction with one of the pillars of Islamophobia, and that makes me so happy and gives me so much hope.
Thank you, Dalia. Thank you. This was Dalia Mogahed for Al Jazeera Balkans. Thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy your time in Sarajevo while it's still here.
Thank you so much, Hanan. Thank you for having me.